So right here I have my CT48 EAC Auto Clean Dust Extractor, and I have the long hose plugged in. You can see the power cord down there plugged into the device, and as you can see here on the other side of the shop I have the CTC MIDI dust extractor. It's over here by my Capex 60 saw. And basically my issue, or the reason why I wanted to do this video, so what I'm talking about is this space right here. It is next to my Capex 120, which is here, or either side of the Capex. This is where I want to put a dust extractor. So my options would be to either get another CT MIDI and put it down here, or I can get a CT26 or a CT36 and put it down here. And the reason why I'm looking at those different options, the CT MIDI would be the lowest cost option to solve this issue that I'm having here. And I spoke about it before. This is the power cord for the Capex. And as many of you know, this is basically $1,700 saw. I paid $15.99. It's gone up in price now to $16.99. And if you look at how long this cord is, it doesn't use a plug-in, and it's not that long. Now, of course, I could, I guess, use an extension cord with this, but that's not something that I was thinking about doing, even though that would be somewhat of a solution. My concern or my issue, as I've spoken in another video, is my CT48 is over there, and then when I pull this cord all the way out, it does reach. It will make it to the dust extractor. However, the problem comes in when I go to turn the saw like this, and then it will not reach the dust extractor in this orientation. And so basically what that makes me end up having to do is I have to take the whole dust extractor and turn it facing this way to the back of the saw so that the cord will make it. And so for me, the best solution is to set it up like it is over here with the Capex 120, where I put a dust extractor right down here so that the cord can come up and connect, and I'll be able to orient the saw in either direction without any interruption or putting any stress or strain on the Capex 120, which I have here. Now, obviously, it's an expensive fix or upgrade, if you will. However, you know, as you guys know, I'm building out the Festool shop, and then also too, I'm doing this YouTube channel. So any opportunity to create more of a content library is going to be beneficial. So what that'll give me the ability to do is, you know, like I said, be able to run this saw without having to disconnect from my CT48 over there ever, which would be good. And that frees up the CT48 to use, as I mentioned in another video, to be able to use it anywhere in the shop with the long hose that I purchased for it. Now, as I'm thinking through this process, I just called my local Woodcraft today, and I fought the urge to go over there because I'm trying to give this a little bit more thought. Now, I know that the new CT dust extractors are coming out. I think it's March 26, if I'm not mistaken. At least that's when they start to ship. Now, I don't know if my local Woodcraft will actually have it in stock at that time, but what I do know is that, you know, that's when they're going to be starting to ship. Now, these are my options of what I can do. I just contacted Woodcraft today. They did say that they do have one CT36 Auto Clean, the old version, in stock. So I could go over there and get that. Now, basically what that would require me to do is that would actually require me to, it's basically just a little bit past what my allowance is right now, or the money that I've saved up in my allowance. So I don't know, I'd have to get my wife to help me out, to be quite honest, if I wanted to do that. I'm about 40, I want to say like $41 short of being able to do that. So and then I'm just not 100% sure, and that is also not including the $88 Bluetooth accessory that would need to be added in order to do that. So that made me kind of retract and think and consider the CT MIDI, obviously the, you know, what I have here, but not the battery version, basically getting the corded version, so that it would give me the ability to go ahead and use the Capex 120, but also not have to disconnect and connect, and it already comes with Bluetooth included. I would just have to pay another, I think it's like $49 for one of these connectors here, Bluetooth controllers, to be able to operate the Bluetooth functionality. Because if you buy the CT MIDI corded, even though it does come with Bluetooth included, it doesn't come with the controller. If you want the controller, you have to buy the battery powered version, and it does come with the controller. And actually the price on that has gone up to, I want to say, $719. If you just buy the MIDI, it's $679 still. So I was throwing that idea around in my head. And then the other option that I was exploring is, which would be kind of like a little bit of a, well, more content for the channel, would be as if I went ahead and got the CT26. If I get the CT26, that puts me under budget with the current money that I have to be able to buy at $799. And that would solve the problem of being able to connect here. It would fit up under the Capex 120, but it would also give me a higher volume or capacity. Now, I'm thinking with the miter saw, I probably could get away with the CT MIDI, but having the CT26, obviously, since I don't have one in the shop, obviously it's new video content, so that would be a plus. It gives me a little bit more volume than the CT MIDI itself, and then I could still buy the Bluetooth module, and that would be within the budget, so I don't, you know, break my own little financial budget as far as purchasing that. So that is an option. Now, let me just share with you guys a couple of the I don't want to say drawbacks, a couple of the hang-ups that I have. So I guess my wife calls me a perfectionist, and I've actually had someone in the comments call me that as well. And apparently that's one of my, you know, personality trait or whatever that I have to deal with. But because I have already mentioned on the channel that I wanted to build out the Festool shop, and I do plan on getting the Festool Plain X, the one for, I think it's like about $1,500. And Festool has said that, you know, you kind of want to pair that with the CT36. That was my thought process for why I wanted to get the CT36. And then I thought that the newer dust extractors that were coming out were going to come out like sometime next year. So I thought that I had plenty of time. But with them coming up here very quickly, like within the next, you know, couple of weeks or so, they should be available at least for purchase. It kind of threw a little bit of a monkey wrench in my plans, because obviously for the channel, it would probably be a little bit better for me to buy the newer dust extractor and to do an unboxing and overview on that than it would be for me to buy either the older 36, the older 26, or even, you know, a CT MIDI. I could still do a video with any of those, and they would get some degree of views, but I think people would be more interested in the newer technology. Now, my challenge with pulling the trigger on that, and I was talking to my wife about this, you know, as long as I stay within my allowance and on budget, I don't see a complication with, you know, getting, let's say, the older version now, and then later getting a newer version, and then doing a comparison later. You know, because of how the compactness of the vacs and where I can set them in the shop, they shouldn't cause too much problem as far as space. They would add a degree of luxury access, that being the fact that I would be able to use my CT48 anywhere in the shop with that longer hose, but also since I have the Bluetooth module, I can use it with those tools. But as I was explaining to my wife, something that I didn't realize was going to be an issue is when I'm using my Capex 60 over here, and I'm in the middle of a project, because a lot of times when I'm doing projects, I'm actually just going off of the top of my head. I'm out here just tinkering and playing around. And so what I would do is I'll need the Capex, and I'll use that, and then I'll decide, and I'll have the, you know, the vacuum hooked to it, and it'll be linked up and working fine. And then, you know, I'm so engaged in what I'm doing, I just automatically move over. Then I'll come over here and I'll start to use the Festool CSC 650 table saw, and I'll forget to plug this into any kind of dust extraction, and then I'll get dust all over the place. And then, you know, as you guys know, I mean, it's very convenient to have the ability to use the Bluetooth batteries to connect to your tools or to your dust extraction. But something that I have found, and this is just me, it's just a little pet peeve of mine. Every time you change the batteries, you have to repair the device. And there's been many a times in the shop when I would switch from one tool to another and I would forget to repair the batteries, or I would leave the dust extractor connected to a different tool, and thus forth, you know, kind of totally, you know, eradicate the fact that I have dust extraction in the shop. Or basically I just totally disregard it, not on purpose, but by accident, because either A, I didn't move a hose, or forgot to move a hose, or B, I forgot to pair the batteries. So being that I know with muscle memory, if you spend, like say, if you spend a lot more time in the shop, you develop muscle memory faster. At least that's how I learn. But because my time in the shop is so sporadic, and then, you know, part of my time spent in the shop is for, you know, doing unboxings and stuff, which really the unboxings in of themselves have nothing to do with me skill building. It's just me collecting an array of tools that I hope to use in my building of projects. So it's two different things altogether. So I have to set up the shop one way to do unboxings, and then when I'm doing projects, I have to do things differently. And so when you add in the factor of like I'm building things on the fly, I'm not really following any sets of plans. And so sometimes, like I said, I may make a cut on the miter saw and then decide, oh, I need to switch back over to whether it be the track saw or the table saw. And I just noticed that sometimes I get really engaged in what I'm doing, and I don't slow down enough to really process all that data. I just go, okay, now let's make this next cut. And, you know, as I said, it's kind of basically rendering the dust extraction that I have kind of useless. And, you know, even like right here, especially with the Capex 120, which is one of the reasons why I bought the Capex 120, was, well, that was combining the battery issue. I found that I was running short on battery power, and sure, I could have went out and bought more batteries, but, you know, I felt like over time, just having the corded saw, the corded Capex would be a lot more useful. And it did give me the addition of having 2 extra stops that I can use, which I found very useful in building my projects. So, but anyways, trying to dial back in to get on track. So I've kind of talked a little bit about the dust extractors that I was considering, and then I'm looking at this in multiple ways, right? I'm looking at it from the standpoint of how can I bring more people to my channel to get them to, you know, be interested in some of the videos that I'm making, and or to be like a source of information for the different tools. I mean, it's very difficult to report and talk about a tool if you don't own it. And so if I do own the tools, then I have the ability to, you know, speak on them a little bit more intelligibly, maybe not quite to the level of a professional, but definitely I can tell you, you know, my out-of-box experience. So, you know, one of the things I realized, like say I have the CT48 auto clean over there, and even though I can pair the like the Planex if I get it with that, the CT48 didn't come with the hose that you need to use with the Planex. You can buy that hose for $200, but then, as I've already expressed, the you know, how I don't want to tear up the Capex and I want to put a dust extractor down underneath. I can't do that with the CT48 because it is actually has a cyclone on it, so it won't fit. And then alternatively, my wife asked me, why don't I just put the battery power CT MIDI? And I said, well, you don't get the functionality of it turning off and on because the cordless CT MIDI doesn't have a plug. So, you know, these are things that, you know, I have learned because I've actually purchased the tools, and now I can share it with you. And so like if you think like in the future, like, yeah, I plan on buying some Festool tools, and you may have one thought process of how it's all going to work out. And it may not quite work out the way that you would hope after you spent the money. At least that's been my personal experience, you know. Sometimes I can get so focused in on something that I want to do with a particular tool that I'm not looking at. Sometimes I'm looking at one tree and I'm in a forest, and just through experience, you start to understand that sometimes you need to focus on that one tree, and then other times you need to look at the whole forest to try to see what the best solution is. I feel blessed that I'm in a position to be able to utilize the income that I have to be able to kind of explore these different things behind the scenes, and then actually report back to you guys and share, you know, like what my honest opinions are on these things. Now, before I go too far off track, I do have some concerns about the new CT dust extractors. I'm both excited for them, but I'm also a little bit apprehensive. The reason why, with 2 weeks left, I'm considering buying the older dust extractor is simply because of the fact that sometimes the newer option is not always better. You know, I'll use an example. We use SodaStream here in our home. It's not obviously a one-to-one comparison, but it's just to kind of give you an idea. And we bought our original SodaStream probably, I don't know, like, you know, most of the things we bought pretty decent quality. And so we've had stuff for like 9-10 years. And the SodaStream machine that we had was no exception. And now it was on the old protocol as far as the bottles that you use with it. And finally, that SodaStream machine finally broke. And so we went out and we bought the new one, and we had to get all of the CO2 bottles switched over to the new proprietary fitting. And we bought the new one. I think it was probably maybe $100 or something like that, maybe a little bit more, a little bit or something like that, or a little bit less than that. And we used it, and it didn't last. I don't think it lasted 3 months before it just broke. I mean, and when we bought it and we opened it up, it was clearly cheaper plastic, clearly a cheaper build. It was not, it was like very light. It was, the old one was like, it had some robustness to it. It was made of plastic, but it was heavy duty. And the only thing that, you know, I wish we would have bought a black one, because, you know, we got the white one and it kind of got discolored. But right up until it stopped working, it was, you know, it was rock solid for us. So of course we were disappointed when we went out and bought this new one and switched over to all the newer bottles, only to find that it basically failed in 3 months. And so when I think about that logically, that makes sense. What makes sense, it's something that I've talked about in many of my videos, is the fact that companies and businesses have come to realize that, you know, it's very difficult to stay in business if you sell somebody something, the product, if you sell a product to the masses that is too good. If it's too good and someone doesn't buy it again for 10, 15, 20 years or a lifetime, that does not keep that business in, that company in business. And that's why we're seeing this onslaught of subscriptions and lower quality products being produced. And so that ties back into what I'm saying. I can choose to go over to Woodcraft and get an older CT26 and with the Bluetooth adapter, or an older CT36, and probably, you know, feel, even though I won't have the newest technology, those don't have the, you know, the, what's called, I guess, I didn't notice it, but I watched Festool Live and they pointed it out, you know, the I in the CT vacuum name stands for Internet of Things. And the CT, the Bluetooth CT vacuum that I have, it has that Internet of Things in it. It has a digital readout. You can connect with it with your phone and all of these different things. And, you know, I have apprehension of basically putting all that kind of technology in my in all of my tools, because, you know, I see the writing on the wall that basically it's going to be a way to be able to control the consumer. You know, like they offer the features to be able to, you can look at all your batteries and see, you know, if they're charged or not or whatever, and you can get updates. And that's the key, you know, updates for me. You know, I would rather purchase something and it's working fine out of the box and use it for years to come. I don't really feel comfortable with a company that needs to make sale year after year fear having open access to whatever device that I have, because they can break it at any time. And we live in a world that is very, I don't know what the right word is, so I'm not going to try to speak too big. We live in a world where basically, truth is not always truth. Right does not always win. And even though none of us would buy something from, say, our neighbor that we knew was going to turn to trash tomorrow, it seems like, this is a mindset. And I'm not claiming that Festool is doing this at all. It's just that I have my apprehension, when you look at, like I use an Apple iPhone, and I've been having problems with my phone. I don't know if it's my cellular carrier or the actual iPhone, but both AT&T, both Apple, they can send updates and stuff through over the air, and they can change the functionality of my device. I've had this same issue with my Xbox, and that's one of the reasons why, even though I do still game, I find, at least for me personally, that video games and stuff is still relatively cheap by comparison to some of the things that you can do in life. So I still invest in it, but it will get to a point where I will quit. And that's also one of the reasons why you see me, building out my shop, because I do hope to, in the future, spend less and less time doing things like whether it be watching TV or playing video games, and doing more things with my tools. Now, of course, when you live in the middle of suburbia, you are bound by, like operating hours, if you will. And being that I work typically during, Monday through Friday, during the daytime hours, it doesn't give me a lot of time in the night to do what I would like to do. Like, if I lived out in the country somewhere, when I got home from work, if I had like some big shop or some barn or something, I would be out there, and you would see me growing a lot more in my building and woodworking and stuff. But because I have such a small amount of time that I'm working with, I'm contented with thinking about the fact that as I get closer to, like, say, something like retirement, if that's ever on the table for me, then I already have my collection of tools. Because typically when you retire, unless you strike it rich or win the lottery, your income is going to probably, be more controlled, if not contract. And so if I go ahead and spend up front on the nicer things that I want, then I can utilize those later when I have more time. And so, it's just, the way I think about things is so dynamic. It's not linear. And that's why I think a lot of people don't really understand the things that I'm doing, because I'm actually thinking about not just now, but also the future. I'm very happy about the fact that I was able to build out a YouTube channel and get monetized without being a professional table builder or being a professional floor layer. I don't have to work in those industries to meet that minimum threshold to actually, bring viewers to my channel, and then also to monetize that. So, I got in on the ground floor, but, I'm not like, say, a person that works in the trades that basically they're counting on this. They use this saw day in and day out to make their money. This saw, I don't have to make money with this saw. I make my money being a registered nurse, and I'm very happy with that. But I'm also a person that likes to diversify my portfolio. I like to learn new things. I like to do different things. But if money were no object, you would see me doing even bigger things than what I'm doing. But right now I'm working with the constraints that I currently have. And, I'm just, trying to have fun with it, trying to enjoy my life and move forward. And then also share these experiences with, you, the viewer, who chooses to watch these videos. So getting back on track, you say I can go off on a tangent. I'm concerned with the Internet of Things, that there is a possibility that, I'm not saying that will happen. I don't know. I don't work at Festool, but, when my logical mind does not allow me to conclude illogical things. Now if I don't have enough data, then I'm gonna think, whatever maybe someone else thinks. But logically thinking, as I think I may have mentioned in a video before, as the price of Festool tools go up, you're going to see less people buying Festool tools as long as we're on an economic downturn. And that can actually cause the prices of Festool tools to go even higher. And then other methods, you can look at it with a company like Apple, they have to develop new methods to actually be able to extrapolate money from the consumer. And so like with the iPhones, you have stuff like, they had the courage to move the headphone jack. And then, non-user replaceable batteries, and making these phones out of all this glass. So it's more, they try to make you think that, oh, this looks so much better. I mean, and it looks fine. But the reality of the matter is you drop it one time without a case, and next thing you know, you're up there spending money. And so like all of these things are very strategic and planned out to keep the consumer continuing to spend their money, which means you have to spend more time on your job, more time away from your family. And, that's just not good. I mean, if you, bringing in, like, say, a company that I've heard about, I don't have tractors, so I don't know it firsthand, but I've seen videos about, John Deere tractors and how they have a proprietary technology in them that means that the farmer cannot repair their own tool, and that's their livelihood. And so, that becomes a precarious situation when, you're solely dependent on a third party or a company for you to make your own livelihood. And, even though I don't need these tools to make money, if I have a choice between buying something that's a little bit lower tech that is going to last me 10 years and not give me any problems, that would be my first choice. Now, all of that said, that kind of pushes me in the direction to get the older CT36 that I called about today. However, I do have some reservations. What is my reservations? In discussion with my wife, she was saying, well, you may want to go ahead and move on and go with the newer technology simply because you can get left behind, which is true. I know this because when I look at, say, like my gaming consoles, you can't play all games on the older consoles. In some cases, they force you to upgrade to the newer technology. And I do see at least one thing that intrigues me, which is the dual power port that goes on those newer dust extractors. It gives you the ability to have two tools plugged into your dust extractor at the same time. Now, for me, that would be very functional in my shop, because what that would give me the ability to do is put that CT36 up under this Capex 120, and when that module comes out, I can plug that in and hook it up, and then I can keep the Capex 120 plugged in but still have access to that module, and it already has Bluetooth, so I would still be able to use it with my Bluetooth tools, and it would just offer the best functionality. As I said before, though, my drawback and my hang up is the fact that how long is this technology going to last? And if what I'm saying is logically sound, that basically as the prices of these tools go up, the amount of consumers goes down, and then companies become more desperate and trying to find ways to, make more money from the consumer. Like when you think these things through, like I said, I'm not behind the scenes. I'm just speculating. These are just my ideas that I'm sharing. And I spent a lot of time just thinking about things and trying to understand why is this way? You got the Capex 120 that does not come with a plug-it cord. You got the TS60 and the TSV60 that do not come with plug-it cords. The planer doesn't come with a plug-it cord. The 2200 router doesn't come with a plug-it cord. The ROG 130 or the Reno Fix does not come with a plug-it cord. So when you look at these tools that do not come with plug-it cords, it kind of upsets the whole ecosystem when you get down to it, because you're not using a plug-it cord. Now, for a miter saw, it makes sense because it's a stationary product, but that's when you start to think about stuff like, okay, it would be nice to have two plug-it cords on my dust extractor, or two plug-its, not plug-it cords, two outlets on my dust extractor to be able to keep my Capex plugged in at all times when I'm in the shop, but still be able to use a sander or something else. That's a little bit more of an economical option as opposed to having multiple dust extractors. Now, because I'm doing a YouTube channel and I'm sharing my experience, I'm open to having multiple dust extractors, but I also am open to having as many options as I possibly can. Now, so anyways, that's my case for it is the having the ability to be able to, I'm not caring about any of the updates or any of the Internet of Things. The only thing that I'm looking at is the option to add that secondary outlet to the device, of which is not even released yet. This would have been a little bit more of an easier decision if it would have came out like, say, next year, like I thought it was going to be. It came out kind of quick. And so now, decisions. I still haven't decided. Like I said, I really like to stay on budget, and I don't want to, have my wife have to use some of her allowance or let me borrow money from her so that, I can get that other dust extractor. Because if I did that, I could go get it today. And like if I go with the CT26, obviously I can go get that today. I already have the money for that. I can get the CT MIDI. I can do that. But, any money spent is money that's already gone, and it can't be allotted for something else in the future. So that these are all things that, keep running through my mind or whatever. And I guess, like I said, this is the perfectionist mindset, because going to the furthest end of the spectrum, as I was telling my wife, and she was basically getting dizzy out here listening to me, was as I was explaining to her, like when I don't think about the economics of it, I think about the efficiency of it, right? So when we take a look over here at the Capex 60, right? And then we've got the CT MIDI vacuum here. If I can leave this set up like this, then that means every time I come over here, I put my batteries in, I can reach down here, I can pair it, and then this saw is good to go for a project. Now, if I decide I want to go ahead and utilize the table saw, which I have here, then I need to be thinking about putting the batteries in here and then disengaging the vacuum here, plugging it in here, and then repairing it, which I know first world problems. However, when I think about not money but efficiency, this little cart here that I built, what I was thinking, I could actually add an extension on one side or the other, and I could get a second Bluetooth CT MIDI and put it here and have a dedicated dust extractor for this whole setup. And if I just extend this this little trolley, what that would give me the ability to do, because this whole setup can actually roll outside if I needed it to, or roll anywhere in the shop. What that would do as far as efficiency and flexibility is, now this is if you have the money. If you don't, I mean, obviously for a lot of people that's just throwing away money, but I'm just always thinking about different ways of doing things. And so I've actually run into these problems when I was in the shop. Now, of course, I'm not a production shop, so it honestly shouldn't matter, but certain things like that do bug me, right? So I would be able to say, when I'm thinking on a project, come over here, make a cut, and I'm like, oh, I need to use my table saw. I could reposition this table saw, because I don't have a dedicated space for it, wherever I want to. And if an extra Bluetooth battery powered CT MIDI is on this cart, I can move it in any orientation, and it's a one-stop affair. I can go grab my 4 batteries, put 2 batteries in this table saw, 2 batteries in that dust extractor, fire it up, and pair it, and then this is just a contained unit, and as dustless as it could possibly be based upon Festool's design, right? And so I think that would be a really cool setup. And so as I was just explaining that to my wife, I was like, okay, so that's what I would want to do. I would want to have over here, obviously with the with the 120, having the dust extractor down there with the extra plug, so that I could use other tools if I needed to, and Bluetooth functionality to use with other things. And then over here with the CT48, obviously this is going to reach everywhere in the shop, and I can use all my sanders, router, planer. I can use that anywhere within the shop with that, especially the corded tools. Now, as I was telling my wife, sometimes when you're doing something, like, you don't see behind the scenes a lot. And when you want to move like a smooth transition to do something, if you think about it, think it through. I mean, I know it seems like very minor, but when I'm big on efficiency. And when you start talking about second here, second there, next thing you know, it's up to an hour. What I notice is, like, say for instance, or what I could do is I can keep one dust extractor 100% paired to that that miter saw over there. I can keep another dust extractor 100% paired to this table saw. But then I could have a dust extractor directly for this Capex, but also offers an additional support of being able to utilize it with a secondary outlet that would also give me the ability to plug another tool into it, whether I'm using a Rotex or something like that, which offers a higher degree of flexibility. But with the Bluetooth built into the new one, I would still also be able to pair that and use it with either my track saw, right, to be able to turn it on and off. Because you could actually, if you got the let's say the newer CT36 and you bought the 2-plug module, and then you got the bifurcator, they have some kind of a hose connector that you could plug in there to where I could run one hose up to the Capex and have another hose available for another tool. Then that means that I would have the option to use both corded and or cordless tools with that dust extractor, which is intriguing in of itself. But then, you know, I know I'm getting deep in the weeds here, but basically if you think it through and you think about the flow and you think about just being able to, like, let me back up. When you have corded tools, right, and you have a tool like this, the Capex, and it plugs into your dust extractor, and every time you pull this trigger, it activates the dust extractor. The issue is you can only plug in one tool at a time. You have to unplug and plug, unplug and plug. Every time you do that, you run the risk of causing damage to the plugs or whatever. That's just, you know, the nature of things. Things wear out. So even though it is an amazing feature to be able to turn the dust extractor off, turn it on, and not every brand offers something like that, the reality is it becomes more of a long-term solution when you buy a tool like this and you get its own dust extractor for it. And then it's very advantageous if that dust extractor has a dual port, so you can use it for other things, and also has Bluetooth, so you can use it with Bluetooth and secondary corded tools. Now, when you're running, say, a Festool shop with batteries and stuff, you need to keep this in mind. As I said, once you take the batteries out, you have to repair the tool to whatever dust extractor when you switch the batteries around. So if you happen to be like myself, and you have the battery powered table saw, you have the battery powered miter saw, you have the battery powered track saw, but you also have the battery powered sanders. So think about that. The actual dongle that's on this dust extractor here, 5 of these can pair, from what I understand, to each dust extractor. However, only one set of Bluetooth batteries. So think this through. You're doing your project. You're doing it battery powered. You go to your Capex 60, you got a station set up. Maybe it's away from your table saw. Maybe it's away from where you sand. Maybe it's away from where you're using your track saw, right? It's not right there, because I don't see any really convenient way to have your, like, say, your MFT right up under your Capex set up with, you know, with the wings and stuff. It's just, it doesn't work very well. So these other stations are going to be away from, you know, your Capex station. So because of that, right, if you're using a battery powered Capex, you're reaching back behind there, unplugging your hose, right? It's probably running back behind your UG stand. And so you're unplugging that, dropping the hose down, pulling your dust extractor out, or maybe it's close enough to where you can just unplug it, pull it down underneath, and then you plug it into your table saw. You have to orient your table saw. If your table saw is not on wheels like mine, then you're actually carrying it to the site that's closest to the Capex to plug it in, and then to repair the batteries just to do that function. And then once you do that, you decide, oh, I want to sand. And your MFT table where you sand is in a different location. And so now you may either you have a hose long enough to use that dust extractor, that one Bluetooth extractor or whatever extractor you have, all the way to that device, or you have to move that dust extractor from its location all the way over to do that job. And then you decide, oh, I'm going to go back over here and use, let's say, you know, a Bluetooth, whether it be a Bluetooth sander, Bluetooth track saw, and it's on and on. And so this is just something that I discovered. It may just be my thing, my pet peeve. You know, if you're, say, a cordless Festool Professional, you go out on the job and you use, cordless tools, and like say you got an open space and, it's just like, oh, that's easy. Just unplug, unplug, plug and plug, whatever, like a lot of times, when you're dealing with like say a Capex type stand or any kind of miter station, getting back behind there is not an easy deal. So you got to be strategic about where you set something up. Because I set this up here and I set the other one up over there, like there's not a lot of activity going on back behind here. I mean, luckily I can reach these tools, but like if you look at the rail up on top, it's very difficult to get to that. So every time you answer a question, every time you come up with a solution, it creates another problem. At least that's what I have found. Now, fortunately, I am, that's something that I do in my free time. I like to solve problems that are real and tangible in the real world for me. It may not be for you, but for me. So like, I'm in the search of having the perfect shop for me. And I chose Festool because I like, the integration of the tools and the way they work together and the synergy that one tool it has for the other tool, how they work together well. And so that's what kind of brought me to the brand. And now I'm just working out like the little bits and bobs, if you will, of how to make all of those things work well together, how to be able to flow from one part of the shop to the other so that it's a pleasant experience for me. Because you have to understand, because I'm not doing this for a living, but I'm doing it for my own self-enrichment and my own growth. I want the experience to be as pleasant as I possibly can. It's kind of like I can choose to, ride in a covered or uncovered wagon to work. It's gonna work, but it may not be as convenient as having a nice car with, modern amenities, air conditioned, heat, all of these types of things. And if you're being frugal and or you can't do any better, then maybe you go with the covered wagon. But if you have the money to go with a higher quality, higher end, higher whatever, then it's a situation of like, if that's where you want to spend your money. And for me personally, at least up to this point, that's what I've chosen. I've chosen that I do want to finish out buying my Festool shop, building it out to where essentially, like if I'm watching something like Festool Live and they use, Festool tools, obviously, I would be able to recreate anything that they've done on that channel, because everything that they reach for, I will have it here in the shop. So, so many times when I first started my woodworking, journey, every video I watched, somebody would be using a tool that I didn't have. And that's what kind of led to me buying all kinds of different tools. And I finally kind of narrowed it down to the Festool brand. Not saying that I won't buy any other tools, but basically I narrowed it down because they kind of cover a lot of bases. It's a very unique boutique type brand. I mean, you got drywall, you've got, you got concrete grinders, you got drywall, screw guns, you got track saws, obviously some carpenter saws. You've got a kind of a nice little array of tools that fit within a system that's stored nicely together in sustainers. And so, being that I, at least at this current time that I have the money, it's been the best option for me. But anyways, long-winded explanation of how, I'm in this dilemma of trying to decide on if I'm gonna get the older CT36 or get the CT26 or get a CT MIDI or wait for the new one. I don't know. You'll know though when I do the unboxing. Anyways, guys, one update. I got just a few more Festool tools that will make me feel like, I've kind of completed my Festool shop. Obviously, the biggest one is the Conturo. I'm still on the fence on whether I'm going to punt that to next year. I'm still working on the Saab and looking for another car as far as that. The other tools that are on that list are the Renofix. It's another tool that I'm probably not going to use that often, but it is within the Festool line, so I'll probably be picking that up. I do want to get the Festool 150/5 sander. I wish I would have picked it up the first time around. I didn't, and kind of you know, not happy with myself for not making that decision. So I have the money, I can go get that right now. But you know, being that I've already got the 150/3 and I've got obviously an array of sanders, that is not, you know, higher up there on the priority list. There's the dust extractor, of which I've talked about mainly in this video, is just really going to take me, put me in a more convenient position as far as, you know, dust extraction, because I no longer have to worry about that cord, you know, getting messed up. And then it that frees up the CT48 for everything else in the shop for right now. That other stuff was just really taking it to the next level, talking about getting a another Bluetooth vacuum for this table saw. That's just, you know, way excessive. But as I said, as long as I'm still having my allowance, you know, we're still on budget and I can have an allowance, it's something that I may consider. And then, you know, touching back on the dust extractor, I was thinking, if I got the 36, it's like I killed 2 birds with 1 stone. However, I'm always thinking down the line, and I'm like, well, if I'm doing drywall like somewhere else in the house or somewhere else, do I want to, you know, it's not like I'm gonna be using the Plain X right here, right? So if I get the CT36 and relegate it to this position, when I think about efficiency and effectiveness, that probably isn't the best idea if that's the one I'm going to use. Because like, say if I was going to go upstairs and, you know, patch something, I wanted to use the Plain X when I get it, I don't want to carry that freaking CT48 upstairs, you know. I'd rather go with the smaller vacuum. So that's why, you know, these are my logical thought processes or whatever. It's not necessarily something for someone to agree with me. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm simply analyzing the data for myself and trying to say, which one is better? Should I do this or should I do that? You know, should I get the 26 for down here because I haven't unboxed the 26? Should I wait and get the new 26 or the old 26 or the 36 or another MIDI? You know, decisions. So I said the Conturo, I said the Renofix, the 150/5 sander. I've also, I'm on the fence about whether I'm going to get the 5-inch sanders, meaning the 125/3 and or the Rotex 5 or Rotex 125. I don't know. I honestly can't say. You know, as I said, as I'm still getting my allowance in, unless we suffer some kind of economic setback, then I may reconsider those. But those would be like, you know, way further down the line. Would I consider the battery powered sander that's coming out? Yes, definitely. When that comes out, I do plan on picking one of those up. And then maybe that drilling guide, I think it's the MB40. I'm considering that, but it depends on what the price is, because I'm also looking at the Woodpeckers Auto Line one, and it's pretty expensive. I think it's like $700, and I'm debating on getting that in sometime in the future, because if I get that and if it will serve the purpose, I may get rid of my Ryobi drill press that I have here, which will clear up some space in the shop. Let's see, what else? I think there's a tool that I'm missing that I was thinking about getting that, I don't know, I can't think of it right now. As far as like tabletops, that type of stuff, I do want to get the STM 1800 for ripping or whatever, because it folds away. But that's, you know, also something that's way down the line. I'm not yet decided about getting a second MFT. I've not decided about getting a dashboard table. I think about it, but in all honesty, those things would be easier to do if, say, my channel somehow, you know, did very well and I started to bring in, you know, a significant amount of money via this platform. Then I can take that money and reinvest it back into the channel, and stop spending my allowance. Because, you know, if you think about it logically, if my channel starts to replace my allowance through the money that comes in through YouTube, then that would allow me to save more money at home, because then I can just give my allowance back to the family budget and it can go for other things. So that's how that could work. But as it is now, I still have to spend, you know, all of my allowance in order to keep this thing going. And, you know, right now, It's like a product of love as a more so than actually advancement, but that's okay. I do have like 6 unboxings that I've started on that they're just smaller unboxings, but I have to do the B-roll and I need to get on that. And there actually is 7 unboxings because there's another one that I have had since around Christmas time. And I've just been trying to think about the angle of how I want to do the video. I did most of the video, and then I went back and looked at the footage, and I'm like, I don't know if I like this. And so I'm trying to figure out how to salvage that video and get that out. And because I don't like to present new tools in my shop without doing an unboxing and overview. That's just the way that I do it here on my channel, because I mean, let's keep it real. I mean, you know, I don't just do YouTube for my health. I am trying to build a community and, you know, see if I can get my revenue to go up a little bit more. And so, you know, any view is a good view, you know, whether it's critical or, you know, positive. The reality matters, if I do a video and people watch that video, then that is, you know, that actually helps the channel out. So it doesn't make sense for me to just present, like, say, I don't know, say I buy a gadget or a widget and I just start using it in my video without doing an unboxing and overview. That's missed opportunity for me, right? You know, it's like, that's my way of advertising my channel. I spend my money, I buy a product, I open it, unbox it, give you my initial impressions of it, and then the goal over time, you know, because this building of my shop is a process, multi-layer process. It's doing stuff like setting tools up so that I don't have to move them, or the movement is minimal, and then also making sure my spacing is good, and then trying to come up with the best way to set up my cameras and do angles so that when I come out here, I can just kind of pin my ears back and just really get to building projects. As far as projects is concerned, I have a stack of 2x4s back there because I want to build just a basic 2x4 type shelf that's going to be on wheels to get some of these items. Like I have on the back side over there, I've got, I shifted all my auto mechanic stuff from back there to up front because I keep moving it around. I'm trying to figure out what the best solution is. I don't know if you're like me, but basically I have stuff for, you know, regrouting and tile. I have stuff for, you know, drywall. I have stuff, you know, obviously my screws and bolts and fastener area. I have, you know, my lawn equipment area, and then all my little benchtop tools that I don't use all the time and that are not in the most ideal location. And it's just taking a lot of time because everything's in motion. I'm trying to find that perfect solution for my shop. And it's probably going to be a lifelong journey, but there's still a lot of things that are kind of like on the floor and on flat surfaces that I need to figure out so that I can just come out here and just get to work. You know, that bench that I built along the wall back over there, I want to lower that thing all the way down to be the same height as these other pieces of shop furniture in the shop, so that and then maybe build some closing cabinets to put on the French cleat wall over there so that I can put some things behind, you know, doors possibly. I'm gonna take that clamp rack, that's gonna go out of there, and then, you know, I said I was gonna be buying some Bench Dogs tools like squares and stuff, like the metric versions. That's still probably to come, but that's also been punted down to after I finish my Festool shop. Then, you know, because those tools are a lot less expensive than the Festool tools that I'm going to get. And I just want to try to get to the finish line on building my Festool shop as fast as possible. But there are some tempting other things, you know, like I was thinking about getting a proper bandsaw. I've considered the vacuum clamping system, the laminate system with the vacuum bags. What else was I looking at? Several different things though, right? Because for me, I just like to create things. I like to build things out of my imagination. I don't really care if it's necessarily impressive to like the general public. It's more of an exercise, a mental exercise. I like tinkering with stuff. I like working on stuff. Of course, you like for the outcome to be great, but I think it's just a healthy exercise of the mind just to do these types of things, to put your hands on stuff and to work with wood, to work with metal, and to create, you know what I'm saying? And I, when I'm out here in my shop doing something, I feel obviously more productive than sitting in the house playing a video game or watching a TV show. Anyways, guys, this video went way longer than I expected. We're almost up to an hour. I'm gonna go ahead and edit this video and I'll put it up, and I'll see you in my next one. Take care.